And we are live. It is Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. What's up, John?
Hey Jack, do we have the articles ready to go that we're going
I
to talk about?
I didn't get the articles ready. I couldn't remember which ones that you had sent me. Um, but I do have like a breakdown of the Cetus protocol hack. And then I didn't actually I might still have that one. I can get that one set up. But I was just going to ask you, since I've got a ton of articles here, which one was it that you were reading?
Well, the SUI ones are from last week, and there was a bunch of them.
You specifically mentioned the Cetus protocol hack, and I was
Yeah. Let me see. Let's see. Trump, Gen Z, millennials, Bitcoin, Treasury strategies. Sure, so Slowmist. Well, there's several. There's Slowmist confirms code vulnerability behind massive Cetus Dex exploit. There's Sui Hack root cause, and that one was cryptoeconomy.com. And then there's coinrepublic.com, Sui Hack root cause, bug bounty, censorship backlash, price reaction. And
Oh,
then
I'm sorry.
there's
What was that first one? Crypto something?
crypto-economy.com.
Okay.
And there's Cointelegraph, Sui validators freeze majority stolen funds and $220 million Cetus hack. There's
I'm not finding that reputable news source. Cointelegraph I can find. Which one was that?
um, Sui validators freeze majority of stolen funds in 220 million Cetus hack.
Sui validator freezes what?
Sui validators freeze majority of stolen funds in 220 million Cetus hack. And the million is just 220 M.
Okay. I got that one. I couldn't find the one from crypto-econ.
Yeah, that's fine. I had three of them. I don't remember which one was the best article. I'm looking through the.
Well,
Yeah, this is good enough. We can just do the Cointelegraph one. It's got enough information in it
so
to make
yeah,
one.
before we start, I am so frustrated with ChatGPT that I literally broke up with it. I literally was like, okay, well, then I am going to cease using your services then if that's the way this is going to go down.
I like Grok. Grok works pretty well.
Does it create images?
Good question. You could
Because
probably ask it.
that's what I need. And
I mean, back like a year ago, Mid Journey was like the best image generation, but like it evolved so fast.
yeah,
Just ask Grok, like, what's the best AI to make images with,
yeah.
and
I
Grok will tell you.
Yeah, I'm always reluctant with stuff like that though, because I'm
Yeah,
asking an AI to recommend another AI, and
yeah, yeah. You could ask Google. I don't know.
yeah, Google is one thing, but anyways, I'm always afraid it's going to hallucinate and send me to like somebody that's going to steal all my information. Um, but yeah, so I told so like last week I was having ChatGPT make thumbnails for me, and I said create an image that was kind of like this, and it would create an image that was sort of like that with some problems. So then I would say, okay, well that's great, but you need to do this differently and better, and then it would go create another image, and I would go, okay, that's good, but now you also need to fix this and whatever. And the next thing you know, they'd be like, you're out of your image generation tokens. And I was like, well, that's silly.
Right.
And they were like, you should consider upgrading to our plus, membership where you'll have more tokens. And I was like, and I literally said this. I was like, I think I'd rather just go create another Google account and continue using your services for free. To which it said, well, I understand you want to use this tool to its maximum and complete fullness, but that goes against ChatGPT's terms of service. um, and then it goes on to say, uh, there's a lot of value. You really ought to try and consider using the Plus membership. It really does for what you're using ChatGPT for. Like it really could be helpful. So I'm like, wow, that's a really great, sales pitch you've got going. But uh, I said, and this isn't true, but it's a good way to. I figured it would get my point across. I was like, you know what, I can't afford the extra expense right now. And it says, I understand, which there's no way it could, that and financial difficulty is a real thing. So you need to be wise with how you spend your money. Um, and it was like, how about I give you some suggestions as to how you can utilize my services better in the future? And I said, well, that's great. Like what? And so then we had this cool conversation about how, like, in the future, I can ask it to do a multi-query. Like, I can ask it to create me three thumbnails, one thumbnail like this, one thumbnail like this, one thumbnail like this, all in one
Until
request.
yeah.
And and it even gave me a specific, like, here, you can even copy and paste this into your like request. Like this format will yield you the results I'm talking about. So I was like, oh, that is amazing. Thank you for your assistance. So I was like, oh, I left going, hey, that thing was pretty good. So the next time I need to do is this time. So I go and I do the exact thing that it suggests that I do. And actually, I tried to do this one time after as well. And it would only create me one thumbnail afterwards. I
Mm.
didn't have time to mess with it the last time, so I just let it go. But this time I was like, hey, you told me to do this, and this would happen. And this is actually the second time now where I have tried to do exactly what you told me to do, and you didn't return the result that you said you would.
Mm.
And it was like, and it like took a second, and it was like, you're absolutely right. I am so sorry. There's something on the back end in my coding that was, improperly whatever, and it even showed me the code. And it was like, this is where things have gone wrong. I will fix them now. And now it was like, I only created you one image when I should have created you two, and or I should have created you two additional ones. So I'll get right on that right now. And so then it creates another single image, only it takes three concepts and merges them into one image. And so I was like, no, no, you combined three images into one thumbnail, and instead I need three thumbnails with an individual image, per each thumbnail. And it was like, oh my God, I can understand why you're so frustrated. I keep screwing this up. I'm so sorry. And here's what I'm gonna do right. I'm gonna get it this time. And then it would create only one image, and it would be all fucked up again. And this happened like maybe once or twice more. And I kept saying, no, you're not doing it right. No, you're not doing it right. And then it gave me the thing, you're out of your image generation tokens. And I was like, wait, you're telling me that I'm out of my image generation tokens when I literally only asked you to create an image one time and I asked you to do three of them in one request, the way that you told me? And it was like, yeah, that's pretty much accurate. And I was like, well, that's fucked up. You shouldn't do that. You should give me my creation tokens back. I still need this thumbnail for something today. They were like, come back to us in 23 hours and, talk to us about it then. And I was just like, no, I need this for today. It sounds like you're telling me to go use your competitor's services. And it was like, we understand you're frustrated, blah, blah, blah. You can actually ask our open AI support staff and see if they'll be able to do that. So I go and I open up a chat window just like it tells me to, and I even post the the synopsis of the situation that ChatGPT recommended that I post, and then uh, I come to find out that's not a real person; it's another AI that you're talking to
Oh
in
my
the
God.
in the help deal. So I realized this pretty quickly because it's the same kind of meter as ChatGPT, and so I start posting the same stuff to them, and they're just like, you know what, we're so sorry. We understand that this is frustrating, but on free accounts, there just isn't a way to manually reset the number of creation tokens that you get in a day, so you'll have to wait. And I was just like, all right, well, there's better services out there.
Yeah.
So I'll go use those instead. And so Anyways, I just, they always say that whenever people have a good experience, they keep it to themselves, and whenever they have a bad experience, they tell everybody and their dog about it. So here I am telling, everybody and their dog about it because I'm very unhappy. Don't use ChatGPT. There's better stuff out there. Don't do that to yourself.
All right, let me. And we need this for the thumbnail for this episode, right?
We don't have a thumbnail. I'm just using like the last week's or the stablecoins episode thumbnail because it's most generic.
Let's see. Our good. Let's see. I'm googling it right now.
Also, I've got a new setup here and I can't find my there. So we are talking, about the new.
There's. Let's see. Midjourney, Canva, Adobe, Firefly, Lenza, and Leonardo AI.
I've used a couple of those.
Deep.
Leonardo's not bad, but I use that. We use that for creating like video images for the critical fail.
Yeah, I've heard of Midjourney. Midjourney's supposed to be really good. I would start with that one.
Mid Journey.
Yeah, one word. Yeah, that's one I've heard about for a long time. Is Midjourney.
Free trial for new users, allowing them to generate up to 25 images before requiring a subscription. Wix, I've used them. Mid Journey. Okay, so we don't have to talk about that now.
Yeah.
Well, where do you want to where do you want to start? Is there anything in the news? Bitcoin conference. Had the Bitcoin conference.
Yeah, I mean, I sent some articles to you in your email.
Yeah, I read the ones that I could, and some of them got blocked, and I didn't want to say it because I told you to send them to my work email, and then I couldn't look at
Yeah,
it on my work email. So
yeah, that's fine. Um, the most interesting one to me, of the recent ones I sent you was Square. Let's see, what is? Let me click on it. Square, Jack Dorsey's company,
hmm
claimed he got 9.7% yield on his Bitcoin holdings, having running a Lightning Network node.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah, so you
interesting.
earning fees, processing Lightning Network transactions. Um,
Earns what is it? They earn
here,
fees,
I'll
Bitcoin
send.
fees.
Yeah, I'll send it to you right now on your text.
Well, okay.
That won't work either.
No, it will. It's the same thing as me asking you to read it to me.
Well, here, I'll
It's
just
okay.
read.
No, I got it. I got it now.
The parent platform owned by Jack Dorsey's. I mean, it's long.
Cryptonews.net.
It's not that long. I can read it. It's not
Well,
that
no,
long.
I just wanted to I wanted to pull up the article to put
Yeah.
on the video, and so I needed to know
Oh, it's from
what the link.
cryptonews.net.
I've got it now.
Okay. Um, yeah, he's just saying that he gets 9.7% yield on his Lightning node. And that's probably, more than most people will get because it's Square, right? They're processing payments for people. And he's probably got a big chunk of Bitcoin sitting on there. But like that's pretty fucking cool, right? Like I think the Bitcoin network would easily take off if you have two options with your Bitcoin. Actually, you have a lot of options with your Bitcoin, but if you want to keep your keys,
Yeah,
most options with Bitcoin, especially to get Bitcoin yield, involve giving up your private keys. Whereas running your own Lightning Network node, you keep your private keys, and which is what's cool about Lightning Network is it's decentralized, unlike the Ethereum layer twos. And we'll talk about more about decentralization in a minute. But apparently, you earn fees as well while running that Lightning node, and 9.7%. Like Jesus Christ, that's a lot of yield in Bitcoin. And keeping your private key. I mean, I don't understand why more people don't set up Lightning Network nodes if you're making almost 10% yield on it. Um, I just think that Lightning Network is a way that you can buy coffee at McDonald's.
Yeah, that's okay. That's why I finally got the story up here. So yeah, I wanted that's one of the things we were going to talk about at one point was the Lightning Network.
Yeah.
And I didn't make the cut for the show that week, but kind of one of the things about Bitcoin that I feel like I am, completely undereducated in. Like I know what it represents for what it allows for in kind of how it works, but I don't really understand it. I don't really get.
Well, I can tell you what I know about it, if that helps.
Yeah, please.
So there's a lot of ways to do the Lightning Network where you do not have the private keys,
Mhm.
which is the most convenient way to do it, which is how probably most people would do it if they only had a few dollars on there.
Mhm.
But if you want to do it in a decentralized way, I think that I used a Phoenix wallet where I could transfer Bitcoin from my Bitcoin regular Bitcoin address to my Phoenix wallet, but I had to pay a 1% fee. And that fee went to a third party because for a minute or for 10 minutes, for a block, probably, right? Like my Bitcoin was routed through a third party. But once it landed in my Phoenix wallet, then I had the private keys and a seed phrase for that Phoenix wallet. It was a Lightning Network address. And I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I don't even want to bring that up. I don't even know why I brought that. That's just my experience using Lightning Network. And I closed that eventually and got rid of it. But I think the real way to do it, from my research, my understanding, and I haven't done it yet. The real way to do it is to have your own Bitcoin node, which you can run on any regular computer or run a regular Bitcoin node.
Mhm. Almost on your cell phone these days.
Yeah, you might be able to do it on your cell phone. I'm not sure, but I think it works best if you have your Bitcoin L1 node on a PC running, just the ordinary Bitcoin Core or some sort of Bitcoin, regular program, one of the clients.
Mhm.
And then you can have your Bitcoin Lightning Network node on a different computer or the same computer or on your phone. And your Bitcoin is sitting on your Bitcoin node on your PC. You have the private keys for that. And then you hook it up with your Bitcoin Lightning Network, let's say on your phone, and you have the private keys for that too. And then you make a on-chain transaction
To
to
open, right, the
connect to open
connection.
the channel,
Yeah.
but you open the channel to somebody else's Lightning Network node with your Lightning Network node
Or
through your
can it be your own second Lightning Network node, or like is there
probably.
some way? Okay, so
Yes,
that's
but
most
then
likely allowed.
yeah, you could do that, but then you just be sending Bitcoin back and forth with
You
yourself.
don't know anybody else that you want to connect your, Lightning, or maybe you just don't want to. You don't trust anybody yet to do that, and you just wanted to get a because like
Well, it's kind of it's pointless, but yeah.
I mean there are
I mean,
some
the
there
point of
are
Lightning
some.
Network is so that you can send and receive Bitcoin with other people
Hmm.
with minimal fees. Um, and so the interesting, so let's say I have half a Bitcoin on my Bitcoin node,
Hmm.
and I connect my Lightning wallet to that, and I open up a channel to Square,
Okay.
right?
Okay. I'm with you.
Now now I can send that half a Bitcoin back and forth with Jack Dorsey, and I can also transact with everybody else on the Lightning Network that is connected to Jack Dorsey.
Okay.
And I can send Lightning Bitcoin back and forth between everyone else that's connected to everyone else that's connected to Jack Dorsey.
Okay. I see.
Like, let's say you're only connected to Bob, Jack is connected with Bob, and Bob is connected with Alice, and Alice is connected to Jack Dorsey, and I'm connected with Jack Dorsey.
Hmm.
I can now transact with Jack.
Right. I'm with you.
However, there's some caveats. Notice I put in half a Bitcoin, and let's
Hmm.
say Jack Dorsey probably has 1,000 Bitcoin, so he's going to have plenty of liquidity, right? But when I only put half a Bitcoin, I cannot receive more than half a Bitcoin.
Okay.
which is different. Like if I have half a Bitcoin on a regular Bitcoin address, I
You
can
can
receive
receive
a
as
thousand.
much, yeah, as much
Yeah,
as you want.
Jack Dorsey can send me all his Bitcoin. But on the Lightning Network, if I open up a channel, Jack Dorsey with only half a Bitcoin, I can only receive half a Bitcoin
Hmm.
at most. That's my understanding. I could be wrong on all of this. This is my Uber driver understanding. And let's say I want to send that full half Bitcoin to Jack, and
Hmm.
it has to go through Bob and Alice, and it's going through not Jack Dorsey. I'm making it confusing. You,
Yep.
Jack,
Yes.
Zero to Hero Jack. I want to send half a Bitcoin to Zero to Hero Jack through Jack Dorsey first, and then it goes through Alice and then Bob, and then to Zero to Hero Jack. If Alice or Bob has less than half a Bitcoin, it won't work. I can only, like, let's say Bob's got 10 Bitcoin on his node, but Alice only has 0.1 Bitcoin on her node. I can only get 0.1 Bitcoin through. So whatever the tightest bottleneck is, that's the maximum that you can send through. But that would be an extreme case where, I mean,
Yeah, that's
but
what is the purpose of that? Like,
I can send Bitcoin for less than a penny
no, no, no. I mean, what is
in
the
less than a
purpose
second.
of the throttling? Like, why?
It's clunky. It's just how it works because they can't. Alice can't send if she only has zero point 0.1 Bitcoin. She can't transact more than one because that's her collateral, right? She can't transact more than zero point 0.1
Well,
Bitcoin on
what?
the Lightning Network because she only has zero point 0.1
So
Bitcoin
why would the
collateral on her Bitcoin
transaction
node.
need to go through her at all? Why couldn't it just route around her?
If Charlie has 5 Bitcoin and Charlie is connected to Jack Dorsey and Bob, then yes, we would route right around Alice, and we wouldn't have to worry about it.
So
Like you're connected to Bob. You're not connected to Alice. You're not connected to Charlie. You're not connected to Jack Dorsey, and you're not connected to me.
okay,
That's the cool thing about Lightning Network. As soon as you connect to Jack Dorsey, you also are connected to everyone else that is connected to Jack Dorsey. And not only that, you are also connected to everybody who's connected to the people who are connected to Jack Dorsey, and so on and so on. Like you can go 10 leaps, right? You know that thing like you're only 7 degrees separated from Kevin Bacon,
hmm,
right? Like you're only seven, as many hops as it takes, you're connected to everybody in the Lightning Network.
sure. Which is that sounds cool. The
It's
whole
very cool.
the whole throttling thing seems like it, like you
The
said,
throttling thing sucks. Yep.
clunky, and
Yep.
why would
Yep.
you? It just I'm like horribly disappointed.
Yep. No, yep. That's one of the, and that's why you'd probably, if you're going to open up channels, you'd probably want to open up channels to big nodes. Like Jack Dorsey, Square is going to have a big node, right? Um, and you can always directly connect to whoever you want, right? But anytime you directly open up a channel, connect to somebody, that's an L1 transaction to do that. Whereas once you're connected to somebody, especially somebody big like Jack Dorsey, you likely don't have to open up any more channels because somebody will be connected through somebody eventually to Jack Dorsey, right? And you can send it through.
Sure. Okay, well then what is the big deal about Square flying the flag for Lightning Network with a 9.7% yield on its Bitcoin
Well, the
holdings?
yield the yield part is interesting in that gives people an incentive to maybe get on the Lightning Network. There's not a lot of people on the Lightning Network. I'd have to look it up. You could Google it or Grok it or whatever, but I don't know how many Lightning Network nodes there are. Maybe 10,000, maybe 100,000. That's about it. And that's just because most people don't bother with it. But once the network is bigger and more robust, if there's 1 million people, 10 million people, 100 million people connected to the Lightning Network, all of a sudden you don't really need to use L1 Bitcoin that much anymore. You have your L1 Bitcoin, and that's your stash, and that's your vault, and then you open up one Lightning channel with that, whatever part of your main Bitcoins. You have a Bitcoin
Right.
wallet for that's your Lightning collateral, right? And then you connect it once. You open up one channel one time to a big channel such as Jack Dorsey, and then you're set. Now you can pretty much transact with pretty much everybody in the Lightning Network. That would be the ideal scenario. And I think that's the future for the Bitcoin Lightning Network.
So
And
where's the yield come in?
well, because so every Lightning Network node has the ability to route transactions, right? Like Bob, right? Like every transaction in our example was going through Bob and going through Jack Dorsey for that matter. And so those Lightning Network nodes are verifying the transactions that are going through. And there's a transaction fee for that. Like Lightning Network is not free. It's less expensive than a layer one Bitcoin transaction, but it's not zero. It's a certain amount of sats, be it 1 sat or 10 sats or 100 sats. It's usually less than a penny um, for now, and I think it has the capacity to do 1 million transactions per second, so it might stay cheap.
Like a theoretical TPS?
Yeah, yeah, it hasn't. Yeah, there's not enough nodes to fully test it yet, but theoretically it should be fast and a lot of transactions per second um and inexpensive and the fee is not zero. It's at least 1 sat, right? and
Mm-hmm.
and, and if you're doing 1 million transactions per second, if you're only getting 1 sat per transaction as a transaction fee, well, you just made 1 million sats in 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
In 100 seconds, which is a minute and 40 seconds, you've made 100 million sats, which is a Bitcoin. So
You
you'd
saying
make you made
they're making a Bitcoin every 1 minute and 40 seconds?
if every if there was 1 million transactions per second and every transaction was going through that node, theoretically, yeah, you could make that much.
Okay, so I thought you were saying that's what it is. I was like, that doesn't seem like the right
No,
math for
right. Well, he's not
9.7%.
doing 1 million transactions per second. He's probably
Right.
doing, you know, a couple transactions an hour, if that, right? Not that many people use it, right? And he probably doesn't have, like, there's a lot of information that's not there in the article, right? Like, how much Bitcoin does he have on the node? We don't know,
Mm-hmm.
right? He could have had 0.1 Bitcoin on the node, and he just made 0.009 Bitcoin in a year, right? Like, who
So
knows?
yeah, he's saying 9.7% yield equates to around 1 million a year. I think we could do the math backwards to figure it out. But
But we don't know how much Bitcoin he started with. We don't know.
well,
There's a lot
we know that 9.7% is $1 million. So whatever it is, you could what is
off of 1 Bitcoin. Yeah, if he had 1 Bitcoin.
no, he's saying what they're saying is that he's getting 9.7% yield on whatever his holding was, which turns
Yes.
out it happens to be $1 million a year about.
Oh, it
So
says right here. Yeah, yeah. The yield is $1 million. So his Bitcoin holdings would have been $10 million worth of Bitcoin.
there you go.
Um, yeah. What's interesting is that first of all, 9.7% is a lot of yield in
Yeah,
any currency,
yeah,
and it's in Bitcoin. Like
yeah,
that's
which
that's
is
Bitcoin yield, on chain Bitcoin yield,
mm-hmm,
or
it's
or
great.
if not on chain, on Lightning Network, which one transaction makes it on
Which is
chain.
sort of on chain.
Yeah, it's a Lightning Network is a decentralized open source layer two built on top of Bitcoin, which is different than the centralized L2s built on Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Lightning Network is decentralized, and that's a big deal. And then there's at least 10,000 Lightning nodes. It's very decentralized, and you can't game, as far as I know, there's no hacking or gaming the Lightning Network. Like, it's legit. Like, and that's why there's bottlenecks, because you can't process Bitcoin that you don't have collateral for.
Sure.
So every transaction is backed up with layer one Bitcoin. So you can't, like, if someone fucks around, they lose their Bitcoin collateral.
Yeah. I mean,
So they can't make a transaction for more than their Bitcoin collateral,
yeah,
right? Because
it's
then they
too
could,
bad because it seems to me like it's a situation where the rich get richer
what do you mean? Oh,
because they just, it's only the big players,
yes,
the
but
ones that are all the transactions are going to get routed through, so they're the ones that are going to end up making the yield,
yeah, I mean,
which is kind of
my get,
anti-Bitcoin, but
yeah, I mean,
I wonder if there's more to it.
I mean, Jack, the rich get richer.
You're right.
That's all the world. That's how the fucking world works, right?
You're
Like this
you're
is
right.
what's cool about it is this is a way that a person could get safe yield on your Bitcoin and at the same time be part of the Lightning Network, which allows for all kinds of cool shit, such as
Yeah.
transacting in Bitcoin anywhere, anytime for almost for free,
Yeah.
almost instantly. Like this is it's a payments network. This is the end game for Bitcoin. Like honestly, Bitcoin needs to stick the landing on the Lightning Network. If Bitcoin is gonna, like Jack Dorsey talks about it, like yeah, Bitcoin's a store of value. That's great, but if it's really gonna succeed, it also has to be a medium of exchange, a point of sale payment system, and the only way it can do that is Lightning Network to and stay decentralized is Lightning Network
I
and
guess I
Lightning
would
Network.
I would argue that it doesn't need to do that, but if it can, great. That's my stance. And
There
then
could be other
and
ways to
and it
do it
actually
too.
yeah, and it actually says right here in the article I read after I said that this may deter adoption by smaller scale nodes, which is a hindrance to
Right.
decentralization.
And then there's you could do like a ZK roll up. I think we need a soft fork before we can do that, like a opcat or opcat or op return upgrade to be able to do ZK roll ups. Like ZK roll ups is another way to do, cheap fast payments on Bitcoin's decentralized. Um,
Yeah, it just starts to
but I really
smell
like
like
the Lightning
ETH
Network.
at that point.
What?
I said it starts to smell a little too much like ETH
Right.
at that point.
No, I'm a big supporter of the Lightning Network. I've tried it. It's difficult to get on it, but once you're on it, it's fucking sexy, right? Like you're just like slinging sats like it's nothing.
Got it.
Like it settles in like seconds. It's less than a dollar, less than a penny in fees. Like and if it can handle millions of transactions per second, like that's faster than Solana, right? Like that's badass.
Yeah.
Um,
You mentioned decentralization.
yeah.
And then that actually kind of ties into the next article in a way because it's about, the opposite thereof, but being used, I guess you could say, for good. Do you want to talk about that? The
I'm
the
sorry.
SU,
I was trying to find the next article.
the
You
SUI
were talking about,
validators
yeah,
freeze
yeah, yeah.
majority.
You were talking about the Cointelegraph article from Sui.
Yeah.
Okay, let me pull that up.
It was SUI validators freeze majority of stolen funds in a
Yep.
$220 million Cetus hack. The Cetus team is working with other stakeholders in the SUI ecosystem to freeze and recover all stolen funds from the recent hack. Cetus,
Yep.
a decentralized crypto exchange. Okay, did you pull it up?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, I was just basically trying to kill time until you pulled
Yeah,
it up.
yeah. I got it pulled up, and um, so interesting thing. So when North Korea hacked, I think it was Bybit, the Bybit exchange for like
Mm-hmm.
$100 million, whatever. This happened like 2 months ago, which is like 2 centuries ago in crypto time.
Yeah, it's old news.
Um,
Ancient
yeah,
times. Dinosaurs
like it
walked
just
them.
happened a couple months ago, and I already like can't even remember anything about it.
Attention span of a
So
gnat.
North Korea, well, because so much shit
I
happened
know.
since then. Like North Korea stole, I don't know, I can't even remember, $140 million of Ethereum, and then they put it through Rune, Thorchain Rune, which is a cross-chain DEX,
Swaps
and
on-chain Bitcoin for on-chain
yep.
Ethereum and
Yes,
other
and that's what they
assets.
did. That's exactly what they did. They swapped their Ethereum. They had on-chain Ethereum that they stole from Bybit, and then they swapped it for Bitcoin, and they still have their Bitcoin. They're just sitting on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I said decentralized exchange when I mentioned Thorchain Rune, but Thorchain Rune has less than 100 nodes. I don't remember exactly how many they have. They have like 90, but it's definitely less than 100. And it was argued like, hey, this money might end up in like their nuclear missile program. Like maybe we should freeze it. And actually, the Thorchain Ruin validators had a discussion amongst themselves. They're like, hey, we could actually freeze this shit. We could steal North Korea's Ethereum back from them or their Bitcoin, right? Like as they're running it through the cross chain decks. They had the option to do that. and they chose not to. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, dude, you should have froze it." And other people were like, "Oh, look how decentralized Thorchain Rune is." And
Mm-hmm.
like, no, dude, like just because they chose not to freeze it doesn't mean they didn't have the ability to freeze it. And now Sui is faced with the exact same situation, a little bit different, where like Thorchain Rune, that wasn't their money. That was Bybit's money, right? That was Bybit's Ethereum. So Thorchain Rune wasn't losing. In fact, Thorchain Rune was bragging about all the fees they were making and about how they're such an important DEX. Look how good our fees are, compared to other chains. And their fees were being paid by the North Koreans to launder their hacked Ethereum from Bybit. And so Sui, they're they're one of their dexes. It was similar to Uniswap on Ethereum or Radium on Solana. This is Cetus on Sui. Cetus got hacked, and the details of how it got hacked, I'm not. I don't know about. I mean, there's other articles that explain it, but I'm not a computer programmer, so I don't really understand it anyway. But whatever. Cetus is a. I don't know how. I don't know. Well, first of all, I don't know how decentralized Cetus was. I mean, and I'm guessing Cetus was an open source protocol, but I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know anything about Cetus, but I think it was. I think it was the largest exchange on Sui, and my
It's a
guess is it was.
decentralized exchange, right? DEX.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever Thorchain is a decentralized exchange, but how decentralized is it if they can freeze assets? I don't think they are decentralized at that
Correct.
point.
Correct. I guess
Um,
we need to find a better term for an
Well, I mean,
exchange
they
that
are
is
decentralized in that there's more than one node, but there's not enough nodes where they can't collude. Which brings me to my final point. How many nodes do you need to be decentralized?
mm-hmm.
Clearly, 100 is not enough. Because to me, in my Uber driver opinion, if a blockchain can freeze your assets, that's not censorship resistant. That's not decentralized. If they collude together, they're a little bit decentralized, but not much,
Mm-hmm.
not enough to where they can collude to do that.
Yeah,
And
but
and
how many
and
how
this
many
was this
people
was like
how many people do you need to put together with that don't know each other before you've got enough that there's always going to be somebody that will say no, I'm not going to go with you guys.
right, and 100 is not enough, right? And so Ethereum went through a time where when they switched from proof of work to proof of stake, they went through a time where um, Tornado Cash was being censored, and um, some Ethereum nodes were censoring not allowing Tornado Cash transactions to go through their nodes, but other Ethereum validators were allowing it to go through. And that proved that Ethereum was decentralized enough, that Ethereum did have enough validators that I think it was OFAC. I don't know what that is. It's some international organization that was putting pressure on Ethereum to not process these Tornado Cash transactions, and in fact, a significant percentage of Ethereum validators complied and said, "Okay, well, we don't want to break the law. We'll censor these transactions." And some Ethereum validators said, "No, go fuck yourself. We're open source. We're decentralized. We can do what we want." And they did what they wanted. And those Tornado Cash transactions got processed, usually slower than a normal transaction, but they did get processed. And that proved that Ethereum was decentralized enough that even like the international police couldn't influence them. Now, in both that Thorchain scenario and the Sui scenario, it's different, where the validators did have the power to collude and freeze assets, and Sui decided to go ahead and do it because Cetus was their largest DEX, and they lost, whatever, how much money was in here, 300 million, 220 million. Like that's a good percentage. That's a good percentage of Sui's money. I don't. Their total TVL is maybe a billion. I'd have to look on DeFi Llama, but um, which is a website. That's probably a quarter of their money, maybe even half of all the TVL on Cetus, at least. Maybe even all the TVL on Cetus. And the SUI ecosystem would be severely damaged if hackers got all that money out of their ecosystem. I mean, probably it would. And you know what? This happened. This happened on Solana when the wormhole got hacked. The wormhole bridge on Solana, the bridge between Solana and Ethereum, that got hacked for $300 million. I
Mm-hmm.
think they stole 300 million. The hackers stole $300 million of Ethereum from that bridge within like 2 or 3 days. Jump Crypto, which is a corporation which does market making and computer programming and some other things, they just replaced the cash. So they did not freeze anything. They didn't roll back any chains. They're just like, oh, we're just gonna eat it. We're just gonna take our own money and put it back on the put new money. We're just gonna put 300 million of new money on the bridge to fix it. That's what they did, which to me shows, ironically, more decentralization than what Sui did, which Sui froze the money, um, and kept most of it by freezing it, and that shows that Sui's not decentralized, right? Which to me, decentralization is the whole point, right? Because we could just use a Google database, right? Or if we're not worried about whether or not the central database can freeze assets such as stablecoins, um, and we talked about the stablecoins, but this is the whole chain, right? Sui froze the whole chain to and not other people's transactions, just the hackers' transactions and the hackers' wallets. The
Yeah.
the chain validators, the whole not just the protocol, not just the Cetus DEX, but the whole Sui chain, all the validators in the whole Sui chain, which there's only what 114 it says in this
That's
article,
correct.
114, all 114 validators, which is a lot of people, but it's a manageable amount of people. You could fit all those people in one large room or one large Zoom call, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how many people Zoom can handle, but
It,
a Discord
it can handle
room.
100. It would be a nightmare to everybody to talk.
Right, maybe a Discord, right? But they can coordinate. You know, there's 114 people. They can be like, okay, these are the hackers' addresses.
Hmm.
Let's not process any transactions from these addresses. And that's what they did. And that's to me, that's pretty centralized, and that's not very censorship resistant. And the next day I sold all my Sui tokens. I sold all of them. I sold like a certain percentage of them right away. Like I sold at least like 20 or 25% of my Sui tokens right away when I heard about the hack, just because I knew that it would be damaging to the no matter what happened, that would be damaging to the ecosystem and the price of my Sui tokens. And then when I found out that they froze the chain, when the validators colluded to freeze the hackers' assets, I was like, oh hell no, this is way too centralized for me. I'm an Uber driver, but I'm a decentralization maxi. And I'm like, okay, Sui's too centralized for me. And I sold all the rest of my Sui tokens, and the price hadn't even dipped that much, which was nice. I mean, the price is down lower
Yeah,
now than when I sold it.
that's one of those things that, doesn't seem to affect the price like you would think it would. Like you would think, oh no, like they just showed that they're completely decentralized. Like everybody's gonna jump ship. But it's like, no, people don't. They're like, cool. They feel protected. Like
A
you
lot of
got to
the top
remember the people that are
blockchains,
buying these altcoins, dude, are usually degens that don't
yeah.
really like they recognize that there isn't a whole lot of protection in this industry, and so if you're gonna do what degens do, like that there's a high chance that you're gonna make a mistake and you're gonna wish that somebody could help you.
Oh, and if you make a mistake, they're not going to help you. Like the Sui validator is not going to freeze the blockchain because you sent your tokens to the wrong address,
I'm just saying,
right?
dude, think about who's gonna be buying these altcoins.
Well,
These
here's the deal.
highly
Like
esteemed
the number
L1
one use
tokens.
case of the smart contract platforms is stablecoins.
Hmm.
And the stablecoins themselves are centralized, no matter what blockchain they're on. Even if they're on Ethereum or Solana, they're still the USDC Circle stablecoins and the Tether USDT stablecoins are centralized. The coins themselves are,
Hmm.
even if they're on a decentralized blockchain like Ethereum or Solana. So any so therefore that opens up the door for centralized blockchains such as Tron, BNB, XRP, which I don't think XRP even supports stablecoins. I think they made their own stablecoin. Like I don't even know if XRP is really a blockchain. They're just fucking trash. But XRP has about 100 nodes. BNB has about 20 nodes. I don't know how many nodes Tron has. I think it's less than a dozen. I think they're all run by Justin Sun. And BNB, most of the nodes were run by CZ. Um, there's a lot of centralized, like those are very central. Those three, XRP, BN, BNB, and TRX, are those are very centralized blockchains. Another very centralized blockchain is Hyperliquid, which people are really excited about Hyperliquid. Man, Hyperliquid is when Hyperliquid started out, up until very recently, it was only 4 nodes. And the only way you could use it was by going through Arbitrum. And Arbitrum only has 1 node, or at least one sequencer. So you're on Ethereum. It's basically a Ethereum L3 coded in Tendermint, which is a Cosmos software development kit SDK, and and I think now Hyperliquid has 21 nodes. I think they expanded their validator set, which is about the same as BNB. And those are all centralized blockchains. And to me, they really aren't good for anything except moving stablecoins. And that's what people use Tron for, is to move stablecoins. And those are all very centralized. And you can and you know what? XRP, Tron, and BNB are some of the most profitable blockchains to invest in. Those three blockchains are some of the most, and Hyperliquid as well. Those four blockchains are four of the most centralized L1s in crypto. They're also four of the most profitable L1s in crypto. The only L1s that do better than those four is probably Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana are probably the only ones that do better price wise than XRP, BNB, Tron, TRX, and Hyperliquid Hype. And so you're right. Most people do not care about centralization, but they
But they
probably would
should.
care. They should, because
I was gonna
if
say
you're not
let's
decentralized, centralized shit is less secure.
yeah, I
It's
was gonna
less secure.
say
It's easier to hack.
let's talk a little bit about that. Like what
Bybit is centralized. That's how it got
what
hacked. And
we keep
Bybit's not blockchain. It's
we throw
exchange.
around words like decentralization a lot. Why don't we talk a little bit more about what exactly it is to be decentralized?
Well, to me, there's a few things. One is the node count, right? Because we can count the number of nodes on each of those blockchains. And Solana is over 1,000. Ethereum is, I don't know, over 10,000, maybe 100,000. Bitcoin's over 1 million, I think. Um, and that's why they're more secure. And that's why they're uncensorable and unhackable. And
Why is that? Why do you say that?
because you would have to have the majority of validators with the majority of stake on those nodes to collude. It's more difficult to collude with 1,000 people than it is to collude with 100 people. It's more difficult to collude with 100 people like Sui did than it is to collude with 21 people or 4 people or one person, right? Arbitrum and Optimism and most Ethereum L2s only have one sequencer. One person can take all the money. And with Hyperliquid, when they had 4 nodes, 4 people could take all the money. And there was only 4 people that ran Hyperliquid. And now there's 21 people. But still, 21 people can collude. Sui just proved that 114 people can collude, right? And if they can collude, they can take your money, period. So therefore, it is not safe. It is not secure to me. If it's centralized, it's not safe. If it's centralized, it's not. If there's 114 nodes or less, it's not safe. Now, is 250 nodes safe? I don't know. Doesn't sound too much more difficult than 114. I think 1,000 has so far proven to be safe on Solana. Um, the wormhole bridge got hacked, not Solana itself. And I don't know how many nodes the wormhole bridge had, but it was definitely less than 100. Um, Vitalik Buterin was saying, "Oh, I don't know if these bridges are safe." Sure enough, they were not. Um, and so there's lots of ways to measure this. One is the number of nodes, the number of validators. Like if you're investing in an L1 and you don't know how many validators it has, you don't know how decentralized it is, period. But if you do know how many validators it has, then you're starting to get an idea, because there's another thing that you need to worry about is the token distribution. And if one entity has more than half the tokens, it's not really decentralized, right? And you can look at XRP. Ripple Corporation owns about half of the XRP tokens. That's not decentralized. XRP can never be taken seriously as a currency of any sort, while Ripple holds half of it. It's basically those are just Ripple Corporation coupons at that point. Those are like Walgreens points, right? Those are just loyalty program points at that point. Like they can crash the market by selling their tokens anytime they want. Like Trump coin on Trump coin, the meme coin Trump coin is an SLP token on the Solana blockchain created with the Pump.Fund protocol, of which Pump.Fund creates something like 27,000 new tokens every day, has created, I don't know, 11 million. They just ran the numbers on Crypto Banter. So I saw it today. I didn't write any of it down, but I think, anyway, all of those. So the Trump token, only 20% of the Trump tokens were released into the wild. Trump, and not even Trump isn't doing shit, but his handlers, whoever's handling the Trump token for him, controls 80% of the supply. That's very centralized. You have 80% of tokens in one person's hands. That's not a decentralized token. So that's another thing to look at, is where are the tokens, right? Like in Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto owns the most tokens. He owns 5% of the tokens. Uh, BlackRock owns slightly less than 5% of the tokens. Michael Saylor owns 2.5% of the tokens. Now, again, with BlackRock, like the BlackRock's customers own those tokens, right? Michael Saylor's,
Yeah.
the stockholders of MSTR own those tokens,
Yeah.
or kind of, but those are, you can see that the Bitcoin tokens are starting to get a little more centralized than they used to be, which is a little bit scary. And if all of a sudden BlackRock or Michael Saylor control over half the Bitcoin tokens, I don't know how decentralized Bitcoin is anymore. But right now, it's still okay. The Solana tokens, something like 90% of the Solana tokens are in the wild, and the other 10%, I think, are just validator rewards for now until it peters out over time, and then it'll just run on. I think there's going to be like a 1.5% emissions. Oh, here's another thing to prove that Solana is more decentralized than Sui. Mert, and I might have mentioned this in another episode. Mert, who's like one of he runs the largest validator on Solana, Helios, and he does other things for Solana as well. He's a developer, and he talks a lot of shit on Twitter every day. Mert's talking on Twitter, 0x Mert, and then Tolly, the guy who created Solana. They both wanted to change the staking rules for Solana. Right now, validators get about 7% yield on their stake, and it'll be decreasing over time. I don't remember what it decreases by, I don't know, 1% a year or 1.5% a year or something like that, and then eventually it flattens out at 1.5% interest for the validators, and 1.5% new tokens every year. And Tolly and Mert wanted to change it to like a model similar to Ethereum, where it would be like 0.5% right now, and if the blockchain had a certain amount of usage, the emissions could even go negative, because the validators would be getting paid by fees only, and not by new
New
token
tokens.
emissions.
Yeah.
But and that's what Tolly and Mert wanted. But the other, 1,300 Solana validators voted no, and the validators spoke. And if it was centralized, it would have gone Tolly and Mert. And Tolly and Mert, Tolly's the head guy of Solana, and Mert's his kind of his mouthpiece. And They both wanted it. And Mert runs the largest validator with the most Solana tokens on it, and they still couldn't get it done, which to me proves that Solana is not centralized. It is decentralized. Otherwise, it would have pushed through.
Yeah.
Um, and so, and that's another thing is like how much influence does one person have? Um, like you can look at Cardano. It's arguable that even though Cardano has quite a few nodes, Cardano actually has it's over 1,000. I don't remember how many thousand, but they might have 2 or 3 or 4,000 nodes, validators on Cardano, which sounds decentralized. Um, but Charles Hoskinson has done some sketchy shit. Like he's erased some transaction history. Like there's like missing Cardano tokens, and like there's tricks he's playing with the blockchain that makes it seem like he might have some centralization controls. Like there's aspects of the Cardano chain that are centralized more than the validator set would indicate, the validator count would indicate. So that there's even, and I'm an Uber driver. I'm not a computer programmer. I'm not a blockchain specialist. I don't understand all of the aspects in which a blockchain can be centralized and decentralized. Ethereum, that's one thing I do like about Ethereum is that they do have a culture of decentralization at all costs. And so there's, parts of the blockchain, like maybe RPC nodes. Maybe the RPC nodes are there's only one RPC node, so we need to decentralize that. And maybe clients, right? Most L1 blockchains only have one client. Now, Bitcoin has lots of clients, at least a dozen. Um, Ethereum, I think, has half a dozen or a dozen clients, and Solana is starting to have more clients. They have the client that Tolly made, that Solana Labs made, and then they've got Fire Dancer, which Jump Crypto made, which is still in experimental phases. And then they just announced another client that they're going to make called Alpenglow, which I think might replace the current Solana Labs
Hmm.
client. But they're working on multiple clients, and Solana will be even more decentralized when it has multiple clients. Which and the client I think is the software that the validator node runs on their computer to be a node. Um, and that's why Solana kept crashing for a couple hours or a couple days at a time, and it got a bad reputation for being an unreliable blockchain. Is because at that time they did only have one client, and so if there was a bug in that one client, the whole chain went down. Whereas if you have half a dozen clients and one client goes down, it's fine. The other 5 clients run the chain until the sixth client, fixes their shit and joins back with the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's a big, how many clients is a big thing. And as far as I know, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana are the only blockchains with more than one client. And Solana is like barely more than one client. Ethereum and Bitcoin are really the most decentralized blockchains. And then there's the RPC nodes, which I don't even know what the fucking RPC node is, or like an API client. That's another thing. Like, but that's like the connection between one computer and another to communicate with the blockchain. I don't even know how, like, I'm just an Uber driver. I don't even know everything there is to know. All I know is that Bitcoin's the most decentralized blockchain. Surprise, surprise, it's also the most valuable. And I also know that Ethereum is for sure the second most decentralized blockchain. Surprise, surprise, Ethereum is the second most valuable blockchain.
But
Interesting.
after that,
After
it's
that, it
not
gets
so.
sketchy, right?
Yeah. After that,
Tether's number three. Tether's a centralized token, but it's number three, and it's all the way centralized, but it's super useful. So decentralization is not the only metric that makes a crypto valuable. Usefulness also makes a difference. Tether is very useful, so it's the third biggest blockchain. I think XR. I don't have here. I'll pull up CoinGecko because we can just roll right down the list.
actually,
Um,
I'm gonna need to wrap it up. We're approaching our hour.
okay. Um, Oh, that makes me sad because I want to at least go through the top 10 because the top 10 has a lot of interesting coins in it. XRP, very centralized, number four. BNB, very centralized, number five. But BNB is useful. Like people used to degen on BNB before Solana was a thing. XRP, I don't know what the hell that's useful for. That's just Brad Garlinghouse marketing team right there. Solana number 6. Um, not as decentralized as Bitcoin Ethereum, but a lot faster and very programmable. USDC number 7, same as Tether at number 3, centralized stablecoin, but very useful. Doge number 8. Interesting about Doge is it's pretty decentralized. It's a fork of Bitcoin. Doge, most meme coins are just tokens like Trump coin. They're just a token on another
They're not,
blockchain.
yeah, they're not even a blockchain.
They're not a blockchain. They're just a token on a blockchain. Most meme coins are tokens on either Solana or Ethereum. I think AVAX has a few. But Doge is its own blockchain, and it's a fork of Bitcoin along with Litecoin. It's merge mined with Litecoin, and both Doge and Litecoin are pretty decentralized. And Doge stays in the top 10. And I think that's because it is a decentralized, legit proof of work blockchain. There's Tron number 9, and Tron is very centralized, but Tron has a use case as a primary stablecoin transfer system in Asia. And then there's Cardano number 10. And I think Cardano and XRP both have centralization aspects and both have excellent marketing. Brad Garlinghouse for XRP and Charles Hawkins for Cardano. And I won't go through any more coins. I
I don't even think that they have good marketing. Like
Right. No, I don't.
I've never enjoyed, I've never like been,
No,
there's never been a pitch by either one of those two organizations that has been interesting at all to me. So,
no, but they do rope in a lot of people.
yeah, it's so wild how that's the case.
And there's staked ETH number 11 from Lido, and that's a centralization vector. There's wrapped Bitcoin number 12, which used to be backed by actual Bitcoin with a centralized entity. Now Justin Sun controls it, and he took out the Bitcoin, and now wrapped Bitcoin is backed by Tron tokens. So it's totally worthless, but still useful. Um, and then there's Hyperliquid number 13. So like, and then Sui. Then there's another wrapped version of staked ETH as number 14, and then Sui at number 15. So if you look at the top 15 cryptos, there's only 3 that are decentralized: Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Yeah, oh, and Doge. There's 4, and Doge. I would say there's only 4 cryptos in the top 15 that are even decentralized. The majority, I would say 11 out of these 15 are centralized coins.
Yeah, and that's not to say that they can't become decentralized as they go and progress, but
I would like to
right
argue
now,
that I would like to argue that they can't. You know how many coins I've seen that are centralized that became decentralized? 0. I've seen 0
well, I would argue that all of them started centralized and became
when they
decentralized.
were very, very young, like when they were just
Sure.
launching out of the blue.
But
When they were very.
I guess that's I would put Sui into that bucket.
No, but Sui doesn't even have the capability. The way the Sui protocol works, I don't think it can go beyond a couple hundred nodes. I don't think it has the ability to do that.
I'm not
I
familiar
think
enough
it'll
with it.
always be centralized.
Well, okay, so it might be, but I guess that doesn't really change my point, which is that it's not that they can't be. Some of these things won't be, right? We're sure at
Yeah,
this point that they won't be because they've been around for forever and they're still
right.
not.
And centralized,
But
right?
I'm saying like new tokens that are emerging, things that may end up in the top 10, top 15, like they still there that are existing today, like that maybe aren't in the top 10 or 15, could become that and start centralized, become decentralized like every other coin does. And I guess what I'm saying is that decentralization is still a goal for a lot of projects, I think.
And that's why I think that this space is dangerous because every centralized project says, "Oh, we're decentralized," or they say, "Oh, we're gonna be decentralized," and then they don't. They just stay centralized, and that it's very common. Like the amount of chains that become decentralized is very few. Um, and I mean, I only invest in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana at this point. I have a little bit of Avalanche, which Avalanche is pretty decentralized, I think. Um, but and then Doge, whatever. Like there's probably a couple dozen decentralized blockchains, but the vast majority are centralized. And the vast majority of the centralized chains claim to be decentralized. And the vast majority of centralized chains that don't claim to be decentralized claim that they will be decentralized. And there's very few that are centralized and are like, yeah, we're going to stay centralized. Although a lot of those are like Tron and BNB. I don't think they, I mean, they call themselves decentralized a little bit. So I don't know about that, but I would just be wary, right? And that's just me. To me, the
Yeah.
whole point of crypto is to be decentralized. And if you're not decentralized, I'm not messing with you. And I used to be a little looser with it, but the SUI thing tightened it up for me. If you're not running at least 1,000 validators, I'm not touching you. Period. And if you're not decentralized in other ways, I'm not touching you.
No. With that, I'll say, what do you have any final thoughts? Because we're past an hour and I gotta go eat food.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Everything else is centralized. That's
Yeah.
my final thought.
Yeah,
Doge.
and
Sure,
I
Doge.
and I only invest in two of them personally. I mean, I think I have a couple little bits of dust left over in my wallets,
Yeah.
but yeah,
And then
it's like
yeah, Bitcoin.
Bitcoin and Solana for me because I hate Ethereum.
Yeah, Ethereum's not fun.
So,
Yeah, that's it.
anyways, well, thanks for the chat, everybody. Thanks for watching. You can catch us next week. If you like the video, give it the thumbs up. Consider liking and subscribing so that you can catch us when we go live again.
Thanks for your
And
time, Jack.
yeah, thanks for yours, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
And wait a minute.